Hi everyone, this video is to help us to multiply with generic rectangles. The reason we like to use generic rectangles is because they help us to break down numbers into easier numbers. Another word that you will hear that's associated with breaking down numbers is decomposing numbers. And it's incredibly important for you to go ahead and learn how to decompose numbers, because in 7th and 8th grade you will not only be decomposing numbers, but you will also be decomposing algebraic expressions. So let's get started with the first example. So we're going to go ahead and multiply 72 times 529, and we're going to look at these numbers separately, and you'll understand what I mean when I say that. So we're going to go ahead and break down the number 72 right now. And we notice that the number 72 has two values, and what I mean by that is we're going to separate them by the place value system. And I created my t-chart using the ones and the tens place. And the way I'm going to break down the number 72 is I notice that 2 is in the ones place, so I'm going to go ahead and say 2 times 1, which is 2. I'm going to do the same thing for the number 7 and say 7 times 10 is 70. Now, once I break it down, if I add those two numbers, 70 plus 2, I should get 72. And this is a good way of checking our work. Now, if you notice on 529, we have 3 digits, the 5, the 2, and the 9. That's why we require a t-table that has 3 columns. So we're going to go ahead and place the ones, the tens, and the 100s, and we're going to break the number 529 the same way we did the number 72. So the 9 is in the ones place, and we're going to multiply 9 times 1, which gives us 9. The 2 is in the tens place, so we're going to multiply 2 times 10, which is 20. And the 5 is in the hundreds place, which 5 times 100 gives us 500. Again, we are going to go ahead and test the same theory, and if we go ahead and add these numbers, we notice that once we add them, we get 529. So we have been successful in breaking down our numbers. Now the next step is incredibly important for you to understand. I've drawn my huge rectangle. What I mean by my huge rectangle, you'll see in just a second why it's called a huge rectangle. I am going to go ahead and use the number 72 and place it along the vertical axis or the vertical side of my huge rectangle. And what you notice is that I did not place the number 72. I placed what I had broken down, the 70 and the 2, along this side. And what I've created is 2 smaller rectangles. If I cut my huge one in 2 to signify the 70 on the top and the 2 at the bottom. Now I could have done the same thing with the 529. I could have placed it along this side. However, I've chosen to place it on the very top. Now what I've done is that I've placed the 500, the 20, and the 9, which is the decomposition of 529. And what you notice is since I have 3 numbers, or 3 digits, I'm going to break down my larger rectangle into 3 more sections that look like this. So now that I've got this, my goal is to try to figure out what the area of each of these smaller rectangles is. And the way we do that is we multiply these numbers, 700 times 500, to find the area of this inner rectangle. So the way I do it is I say 70 times 500, which will give me 35. 7 times 5, and then I add 3 zeros. As you notice, I've done the other ones by multiplying 70 times 20 to get 1400, then 70 times 9 to get 490. And I'm going to do the same thing to get the area of these rectangles at the bottom by doing the same thing. But this time I'm going to go ahead and multiply 500, or the top numbers, by 2. Once I do that, you've noticed that I've completed the area of all the smaller rectangles that make up my larger rectangle. And once I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add each of these areas in order to get the whole entire area of this rectangle. So now that I've placed them in order, 35,000 plus 1,400 plus 490 plus 1,000 plus 40 and plus 18, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a grouping system to add these numbers. And I notice that 35,000 plus 1,400 is same thing for this one, and I get 1490. And the last one I get 58. Once I have these three numbers, I'm going to place them in a neater way so then I can finish adding this and finding the area of the larger rectangle. So now that I've placed them in a nicer way to add them, I will go ahead and do that, and I will notice that my answer will be 37,948. Now I can check my work by using standard algorithm. And you might be asking yourself, what is standard algorithm? Now, standard algorithm is what you've learned in elementary, which is just to go ahead and multiply 529 times 72. Now we can use a calculator, we can use long multiplication to check our work. I'm going to go ahead and, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to go ahead and just multiply it really quickly. But you will notice that once I multiply this and add this, it should give me the same answer, 37,948, just like I did with this generic rectangles. Now what you've done is you made your brain a lot more powerful, because not only do you know how to do it with standard algorithm, but you also know how to do it with generic rectangles, which in the long run will help you in higher mathematics. Alright, so now let's go ahead and see if you've learned how to multiply and break down numbers or decompose numbers using generic rectangles. What I want you to do is to try to multiply 37 times 295. Before you begin this problem, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. I want you to set up your paper the way I've done, and on the right side of your paper, I want you to jot down some questions. Now this is important because this will help you to analyze problems. An example of a question that you might ask yourselves is, what do I need to do to the numbers that will help me figure out how many smaller rectangles make up the larger rectangle? And of course the answer to this is to decompose it and use the place value system. Another question might be, how can I use standard algorithm to check my work as I go along? You can check your work using standard algorithm by multiplying 37 times 295, or by multiplying the smaller values in order to get the area of the rectangle. So pause the video, and once you've paused the video and you finish your work, what I want you to do is to click the boy astronaut or the box next to it if your answer is 10,915, or click the girl astronaut or the box next to the girl astronaut if your answer is 5,375.